National Security Policy for Countering Civilization Jihad. This is Aben al-Hurriya, son of freedom. 1. Declassify Islam as a religion and reclassify it as a hostile political ideology in law. There is ample evidence in the Quran and in the Hadith that Islam is as much a political ideology as it is a religion. Since the two are inseparable, Islam should no longer be viewed as a religion proper in U.S. law. 2. Shut down all mosques. Since the political ideology of Islam is inseparable from the religion, and because Islamic political ideology is supremacist and seeks to overthrow the U.S. Constitution, Islam in the U.S. must now be treated as a hostile political ideology. 3. Shut down all jihadi training encampments on U.S. soil. There are approximately 30 of them operating at present. 4. Bar immigration of all Muslims because their doctrine contains a seditious political ideology as well as a religious component. The two are inseparable. 5. Deport all Muslims who are not yet U.S. citizens. This is because they believe the Constitution should be replaced by Sharia law. 6. Put laws on the books in U.S. Code and all state codes forbidding creeping Sharia law. There will be no parallel Islamic legal system put in place on U.S. soil as we now see in the United Kingdom. 7. Any U.S. citizen who enlists and supports terrorist groups should be prosecuted for treason upon return to the U.S. 8. Designate all Muslim Brotherhood front groups as terrorist or subversive organizations and outlaw them and shut them down. 9. Remove all Muslim Brotherhood influence operators from U.S. government posts. There are many of them. They are deeply embedded, and they are placed high in the government. This is amply documented by the Center for Security Policy's YouTube video, The Muslim Brotherhood in America. 10. Set a target date for discontinuing the manufacture and sale of new cars, which are gas or diesel powered in the U.S., say 10 years. Each year, reduce the percentage of cars manufactured and sold in the U.S. which burn gas or diesel by 10%. 11. Phase out the burning of fuel oil in U.S. homes and buildings over a 10-year period. 12. Outlaw the giving of zakat by Muslims. One of the 8 categories of zakat is earmarked for the support of jihadi operations. In some places, nearly all zakat goes to support jihadis. 13. Strengthen sedition laws. If anyone advocates overthrowing the government or constitution, and not just violently, it would be prosecuted as a federal crime. This would not apply to the lawful petitioning of government to amend the Constitution, which is protected under the First Amendment. 14. Outlaw and bar the development of no-go zones. That is, if a Muslim-dominated area begins to intimidate non-Muslims and especially begins to enforce Sharia regulations, that should be prosecuted. Right now we have an area in Dearborn, Michigan that is becoming a no-go zone, and an area in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area that is becoming a no-go zone. 15. Bar the use of foreign money to establish Islamic study centers in the U.S. universities or colleges. They are intended to be used by Islamic actors as centers for Islamic propaganda. 16. Shut down all Islamic centers. These are centers of sedition. Instead, create departments of Islamology in the same way that we had the academic field of Sovietology during the Cold War. The purpose of these departments would be to study Islam as a hostile ideology. 17. Vigorously prosecute polygamy, honor killings, female genital mutilation, and arranged child marriages. 18. Remove all the restrictions currently imposed by the government initiated by the Obama administration on the analytical lexicon needed by law enforcement and warfighters in their description of the doctrinal origins of terrorism. 19. Participation in gang rape gets a minimum 20-year prison sentence. 20. Any deaths due to terrorist acts gets a death sentence. The terrorist should be buried while smeared or encased in pig body parts or dog parts, or the terrorist's body should be fed to wild dogs or wild pigs. For example, dingoes, wolves, coyotes, or hyenas. This is because in Islamic doctrine, any contact with pigs or dogs in death will prevent a jihadi from going to paradise. Historically, it has been an effective deterrent to terrorist acts. Recall the policy used by General Jack Pershing. 21. Cut off all foreign aid to countries who send delegates to the OIC and to all IC nations. 22. Outlaw the making of mandatory policies requiring halal foods in government food preparation. Outlaw the requirement that employers accommodate daily prayers by Muslims that disrupt the business operation. Outlaw the creating of segregated swimming pools for Muslims. Ban the burqa in public spaces. Burqas are a security issue and are a symbol of the oppression of women. Outlaw any arranged marriage in which the woman does not willingly and freely consent to the marriage. Provision should be made to ensure that a woman freely enters into marriage. Outlaw sending girls out of the country for arranged, non-consensual marriages. If an underage girl leaves the country to marry and re-enters the country with her new husband, the husband should be prosecuted for human trafficking. This is Aben al-Hurriya, son of freedom.